For over a century, Russia and the Soviet Union built some of the most influential armored vehicles in history. From early prototypes to modern unmanned platforms, these are 26 machines that defined their armored warfare. Let's begin. World War I and early Soviet era. The first experiments. Tsar tank, the wheeled nightmare. This enormous pre-revolutionary machine featured two front wheels nearly 30 feet in diameter, designed to crush any terrain obstacle in its path. Strength is the massive wheel diameter, theoretically allowing it to cross wide trenches and large obstacles impossible for conventional tracked vehicles. Weakness is the small rear support while sinking immediately into soft ground during the very first field test, permanently immobilizing the prototype and ending the entire program before it fired a single shot. Russki Renault, the first domestic tank. The first tank produced on Soviet soil was a direct copy of the French Renault FT, proving that the young nation could manufacture complex armored vehicles domestically. Strength is establishing domestic tank production capability, giving Soviet industry the foundational experience needed for every future armored program that followed. Weakness is being a direct copy, meaning inheriting every limitation of a design already considered outdated by Western standards at the time of Soviet production. T-18M S1, the original design. The first original Soviet tank designed to enter mass production, the MS-1 was small, simple, and gave an entire generation of early crews their first experience operating tracked armored vehicles in the field. Strength is straightforward construction, keeping production costs low and allowing rapid fielding across multiple military districts simultaneously. Weakness is the single-speed gearbox and weak engine, severely limiting cross-country mobility, making it obsolete almost immediately after entering service. T-26, the Spanish War veteran. Based on the British Vickers design, the T-26 became the true backbone of Soviet light armor throughout the 1930s, seeing extensive real combat during the Spanish Civil War. Strength is its reliable suspension and accurate 45mm gun, giving infantry a highly capable fire support platform at a manageable production cost. Weakness is the thin vertical armor being easily penetrated by anti-tank guns and even heavy machine gun fire, leading to catastrophic crew losses during the Spanish conflict. BT-7, the Speed Demon. The final and most refined variant of the high-speed BT series, the BT-7 used a Christie suspension to achieve road speeds no contemporary tank could match across open terrain. Strength is the powerful engine and sloped glacis plate, representing a genuine leap forward in Soviet medium tank thinking for the late 1930s. Weakness is the Christie suspension, consuming enormous internal hull volume, forcing designers to limit armor thickness to levels already insufficient by the outbreak of the Second World War. T-35, the propaganda monster. The Soviet Union's only operational 5-turret heavy tank, the T-35 was a massive propaganda symbol designed to demonstrate industrial power at military parades rather than win battles. Strength is the 5 independent turrets, theoretically allowing simultaneous engagement of targets in multiple directions at once. Weakness is the complex layout, overwhelming commanders, mechanical reliability being extremely poor, and almost every T-35 being lost to breakdowns rather than enemy fire during the very first weeks of Operation Barbarossa. World War II, the Great Patriotic War. KV-1, the Invincible. When it appeared in 1940, the KV-1 was genuinely impervious to every standard German anti-tank weapon in frontline service, causing real panic among enemy crews encountering it for the first time. Strength is the thick all-around armor, allowing single KV-1 tanks to halt entire German columns before effective countermeasures were finally developed. Weakness is the underpowered transmission and unreliable final drives, meaning many KV-1 tanks were abandoned by their own crews due to mechanical failure rather than enemy action. T-34, the war winner. Arguably the single most influential tank design in history, the T-34 combined sloped armor, wide tracks, and a high-velocity gun in a package that Soviet industry could produce in enormous numbers simultaneously. Strength is the combination of mobility, protection, and firepower, forcing German engineers to completely redesign their entire armored vehicle lineup in direct response to this single platform. Weakness is early production models suffering from a cramped two-man turret where the commander doubled as the loader, severely degrading situational awareness during fast-moving combat. KV-2, the bunker buster. The KV-2 mounted a massive 152mm howitzer inside a towering rectangular turret, creating one of the most visually intimidating combat vehicles of the entire war. Strength is a single round from the enormous howitzer being able to obliterate any bunker, fortification, or armored vehicle it encountered at close range without exception. Weakness is the absurdly tall turret only being able to rotate on level ground, the traverse mechanism being dangerously slow, and the weight accelerating the destruction of the already fragile KV transmission. T-50, the lost opportunity. A genuinely advanced light tank featuring sloped armor and a three-man turret that gave the commander proper situational awareness without the loading burden imposed on other Soviet designs. Strength is the armor protection and crew ergonomics being arguably superior to any light tank fielded by either side at the time of its development in 1940. Weakness is the sophisticated construction requiring precision machining that Soviet wartime industry could not sustain at scale, making mass production impossible during the emergency relocation of 1941. T-70, the truck engine tank. The most widely produced Soviet light tank of the Middle War years, the T-70 used two standard truck engines coupled together to keep production simple and spare parts universally available. Strength is the simplified power plant, meaning production could continue even as major industrial facilities were being relocated entirely beyond the Ural Mountains under enemy pressure. Weakness is the two-man crew forcing the commander to simultaneously command, aim, and load the gun, creating a crippling cognitive burden during fast-moving engagements. IS-2, the German killer. The definitive Soviet heavy tank of the Second World War, the IS-2 carried a 122mm gun powerful enough to destroy any German vehicle at standard combat ranges. Strength is the gun's kinetic energy being sufficient to rip the turret completely off a Tiger tank with a single well-placed penetrating round at close range. Weakness is the separate loading ammunition forcing a rate of fire of roughly 2 rounds per minute, creating dangerous vulnerability windows during sustained close-range engagements against multiple opponents. T-44, the revolutionary layout. A revolutionary medium tank that solved the T-34's greatest layout problem by mounting the engine transversely across the hull, dramatically lowering the overall vehicle profile. Strength is the compact hull design directly inspiring every major Soviet tank design produced during the following 3 decades of Cold War development that came after it. Weakness is arriving too late for large-scale combat deployment, never having the opportunity to demonstrate its genuine advantages over the T-34 under actual combat conditions in the field. IS-3, the Pike Nose Terror. The dramatically angled pike nose bow armor of the IS-3 sent a visible shock through Western military observers when it appeared at the Berlin Victory Parade in 1945. Strength is the sloped frontal armor being nearly impossible to penetrate with contemporary Western anti-tank weapons at any standard combat engagement distance. Weakness is internal mechanical reliability being extremely poor, the crew compartment being dangerously cramped, and the automatic loading system being prone to serious malfunction under field conditions. Early Cold War, nuclear age armor. T-54, the foundation. The foundation of the most produced tank series in human history. The T-54 equipped the armies of over 40 nations and defined Soviet armored doctrine for an entire generation of officers. Strength is the compact hemispherical turret and 100mm gun, giving Soviet ground forces a decisive advantage over most Western armor throughout the early Cold War period. Weakness is the initial absence of a gun stabilizer, making accurate fire on the move impossible, and the extremely cramped turret creating difficult working conditions during extended operations. PT-76, the swimming tank. A fully amphibious light tank requiring zero preparation time before entering water, the PT-76 served Soviet naval infantry and airborne reconnaissance units across conflicts on multiple continents. Strength is genuine swim capability, giving Soviet commanders a rapid crossing option across rivers and coastal obstacles that conventional armor units could not exploit at comparable speed. Weakness is the thin armor offering no protection against heavy machine gun fire at close range, and the low-velocity gun being increasingly ineffective against contemporary Western armored vehicles. T-10, the last heavy. The final heavy tank to enter Soviet service, the T-10 carried a 122mm gun and thick armor that gave it genuine breakthrough capability against prepared NATO defensive lines. Strength is the long-barreled gun and heavy frontal protection, making it the most powerful tank in the Soviet inventory during the late 1950s at the height of early Cold War tensions. Weakness is the introduction of man-portable anti-tank missiles rapidly rendering heavy tanks like the T-10 obsolete, and it being withdrawn from frontline service within a decade. T-55, the export champion. An upgraded T-54 featuring full nuclear, biological, and chemical protection, the T-55 became the most exported Soviet tank in history, appearing in virtually every major conflict from the Middle East to sub-Saharan Africa. Strength is the combination of NBC protection, reliability, and straightforward maintenance, making it highly attractive to nations operating without sophisticated logistical support infrastructure. Weakness is the 100mm gun being increasingly outmatched by newer Western designs by the mid-1960s, and the absence of a stabilizer continuing to limit combat accuracy at speed. T-62, the smoothbore pioneer. The world's first mass-produced tank equipped with a smoothbore gun, the T-62 fired fin-stabilized projectiles at velocities sufficient to defeat the frontal armor of contemporary NATO vehicles. Strength is the 115mm smoothbore, representing a genuine technological leap that surprised Western intelligence analysts when first identified in the mid-1960s. Weakness is the spent cartridge ejection system, frequently filling the fighting compartment with propellant fumes, and the manual loading keeping the rate of fire below acceptable operational standards. Late Cold War, advanced technology. T-64, the technological leap. The T-64 introduced composite armor and an automatic loader simultaneously, reducing the crew to 3 men and making it the most technically advanced tank in the world at introduction. Strength is the automatic loader, completely freeing the commander from all ammunition handling duties, allowing full concentration on battlefield awareness during fast-moving armored combat. Weakness is the complex opposed piston engine, being notoriously unreliable and demanding highly trained maintenance personnel that most Soviet frontline units could not consistently provide in the field. T-72, the mass production king. Designed as the reliable mass production counterpart to the sophisticated T-64, the T-72 used simpler systems and conventional components to achieve production rates the T-64 could never approach. Strength is the robust and maintainable design, allowing the Soviet Union to field T-72 tanks in numbers that completely overwhelmed Western production capacity throughout the 1970s and 80s. Weakness is the ammunition stored in an exposed carousel around the base of the turret, creating a catastrophic cook-off vulnerability when penetrated, leading to devastating crew losses in multiple conflicts. T-80, the gas turbine. A gas turbine-powered main battle tank designed for high-speed offensive operations across the northern European plain, the T-80 could start instantly in extreme Arctic temperatures that paralyzed standard diesel engines. Strength is the turbine engine, delivering an exceptional power-to-weight ratio, giving the T-80 superior cross-country acceleration compared to any diesel-powered contemporary in its class. Weakness is the turbine consuming fuel at roughly 3 times the rate of a comparable diesel engine, creating a severe logistical burden that significantly compressed operational range on any offensive operation. Post-Soviet era, modern Russian armor. T-90, the pragmatic modernization. A pragmatic modernization combining the battle-proven T-72 hull with the advanced electronics and Contact 5 explosive reactive armor developed during the T-80 program of the 1980s. Strength is the Shtora active protection system, disrupting enemy laser rangefinders and missile guidance, providing a genuine countermeasure against guided anti-tank weapons for the first time on a mass-produced platform. Weakness is the inherited ammunition carousel vulnerability from the T-72, remaining completely unresolved, maintaining the catastrophic penetration risk that had already been demonstrated repeatedly under actual combat conditions. Object 640 Black Eagle, the lost prototype. A striking experimental prototype featuring an elongated turret with an external ammunition compartment specifically designed to move propellant charges entirely away from the crew compartment. Strength is isolating the ammunition bustle from the fighting compartment, eliminating the carousel cook-off risk that had cost enormous numbers of Soviet and Russian crew casualties in previous conflicts across multiple theaters. Weakness is the program never advancing beyond a single prototype and no detailed technical specifications being officially released, strongly suggesting serious, unresolved engineering problems within the design. T-14 Armata, the unmanned turret. The most radical Russian tank design in decades, the T-14 places the entire three-man crew inside an isolated armored capsule completely separated from the unmanned remote turret above. Strength is crew survivability being maximized because a direct turret penetration no longer directly threatens the personnel operating the vehicle from within. Weakness is the isolated crew capsule dramatically limiting natural situational awareness, placing enormous and potentially fragile demands on the sensor and camera systems that must substitute for direct human observation of the surrounding battlefield. T-90M, the current standard. The current frontline standard of the Russian ground forces, the T-90M features a completely new welded turret, improved modular armor, and an advanced fire control system with a panoramic commander's sight for true hunter-killer engagement capability. Strength is the new turret design and upgraded armor package, significantly increasing crew survivability compared to all earlier T-90 variants operating in contested environments. Weakness is the fundamental hull layout and ammunition stowage arrangement remaining unchanged from the original 1970s T-72 design, preserving the core penetration vulnerability that decades of combat experience have repeatedly and violently exposed. Conclusion. From the wheel-driven nightmare of the Tsar tank to the isolated armored capsule of the Armata, Russian and Soviet tank design is a direct record of hard lessons paid for in crew lives. Each machine on this list exists because the one before it was found lacking.